Welcome once again, fight fans, DAZN MMA. I am Sean O'Connell with a very special conversation that I've been waiting to have for months and months because it finally happened. We get PFL CEO, my boss, Pete Murray, on to talk about the acquisition of Bellator. It is a done deal. It is official. The PFL has purchased Bellator. And of course, Pete, the mastermind behind all of this stuff. First of all, thanks for joining us here on DAZN MMA. I'm not unbiased as an observer here. I'm incredibly excited about the potential of this merger.
Yeah, it really is. It's a monumental moment, for the company. Sean, I mean, you're close to, you've been part of our, history from the jump, in the cage and as an analyst and an advocate and advisor. This was a big takedown, and it really positions the PFL. We're on our way to what I would call, co-leadership in the sport. We are creating a, global MMA powerhouse, and these combined, combining these two rosters, the PFL roster and the Bellator roster, really makes the Professional Fighters League second to none.
I'm glad that's where you went with it because, of course, fighter first is always how I think about these things. And this roster effectively doubling in size, but also deepening that talent pool so aggressively, right? Getting all of these great Bellator fighters and now bring them under the PFL banner. And the first question that comes up is, well, what's that going to look like? How much mixing and matching is there going to be? Are we going to see guys like Vadim Nemkov in our season format? Are we going to take our 205-pound champion over there to Bellator? How's this going to work from a mix and mingle standpoint with these rosters?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is great for fighters. It's great for all of our media and commercial partners and obviously fans, but for fighters and the Bellator fighters that are coming into the PFL Professional Fighters League overall platform, those fighters will have some of those fighters will have an opportunity to compete in the league season, and then others will remain within the Bellator franchise. And we're excited about launching the Bellator International Champions Series. And we'll have 7 events at minimum in 2024. Largely internationally, in big markets, Ireland, and think about Dublin, Belfast, France. We're going to double down on London. We'll make our way over to Japan. Of course, we'll stage a big event in Saudi and U.S. as well. But that series, a title fight on every event. Those reigning champions defending their belts. The journey continues under the PFL, sort of platform. But, we're excited to give the competition more purpose and innovation. But ultimately, based on your question, the fighters are going to have options and opportunities. Number 1 and 2, the Bellator brand will live on and flourish. And in our view, we geek out on it and we're going to reimagine it. But really, respect it because we know there's, a tremendous amount of respect, and fans, love the brand and the history and want it to continue. But it'll continue within our system, so we're excited about that. And then to cap it off, each year, mega event, PFL champions versus Bellator champions. And so there's a lot of talk about cross promotions, champions competing against champions. Well, now we have the opportunity to stage a mega event each year. And the first one could happen as early as this February.
So this is something that MMA fans who've been, fans of UFC, PFL, Bellator, ONE FC, the argument, the debate has gone back and forth for years and years. Well, what would your best look like against our best? What would the best in the UFC look like against the best in the PFL? What would the Bellator best look like against the PFL best? You have effectively created a system, created an organization that answers that age-old question. This is unifying the belts, so to speak, champion versus champion. I mean, this is what the sport has needed, Pete, for years.
Yeah, we really, we're committed to advancing and growing the sport. We know what we're solving for fighters. We know we're, like I said earlier, I mean, giving them opportunity to compete, throughout, best fighters in the world, globally, regionally, the opportunity to compete against, and have consistent fights, top competition on major media platforms, getting paid, added incentives, the opportunities to become champions and stay active as professional, world-class athletes. And so, we're excited to, bring, support fighters in that way. Now, both Professional Fighters League fighters, the Bellator fighters, and we think about it, our system, you got pay-per-view sits up top, the super fights division. Now we're excited to launch that next year. Over here is the PFL, that PFL true sport format, right? Built on meritocracy. And then over here is the Bellator franchise. And while it's event-based, we're giving it purpose with the Champion Series. So, it all works together. And what does that mean? That means up to 38 events in 2024 for fighters and fans.
When we talk about that potential cross-pollination, there are rule differences between the PFL and the Bellator. And obviously the format creates differences where in the regular season, right, it's the most grueling, demanding tests that fighters can possibly go through in this sport. You got to fight 4 times in 8 months on your way to $1 million championship opportunity. And then potentially, right, you go through all that, and your reward is, okay, now you got to fight a Bellator champ in the crossover event. How do we solve for that? How do you solve for different rule sets and different formats competing against one another?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, there's a set of rules, and as you well know, in the sports season format that we have in the league season, we modify those rules year over year, but those will be consistent, season long each year. And on the other side of the house, within the Bellator, platform, it's okay. We can have, modifications. And, the most important thing is when the fighters face off, there's consistent rules, and so I think it's okay to have, 2 different sets of rules, on both sides. We can make modifications and maybe, tie in with some consistencies, but it's okay to have some differentiation.
When this deal started being talked about months and months ago, before anything was official, one of the matchups that everybody targeted was this would unlock the possibility of Kayla Harrison, Chris Cyborg, among many other matchups that I'm excited about. But that's the one people have been talking about since before this thing, long before this thing was official.
I had to excuse myself earlier. Ali was just calling me, so the conversation is on. No, we're excited. I mean, when you think about, to your point, I mean, you got champions who are ranked in the top 10, many of whom experts like yourselves would say they can go toe to toe and perhaps even better than the UFC champions in their weight classes. I mean, from Pettis, Sergio Pettis to Pitbull, and you mentioned Nemkov earlier, the guys, Evelyn. I mean, these are some of the best fighters in the world. So we're excited, about the possibilities with our fighters, their fighters, and once again, the combined entity. This roster overall, second to none, and we tried to put that Kayla fight together, Kayla and Cyborg. It didn't happen for a number of reasons, and hey, Chris was I respect her because she was loyal, loyal to Bellator, and long-standing history with Scott, but now the tracks come together, and we can all put that fight together, a fight that I believe both Kayla, or I know, wants, and Chris wants, and certainly the fans want it. So it's now within our grip.
PFL made huge news not so long ago in signing the best heavyweight fighter on the planet, Francis Ngannou. We know what he's been up to lately. Obviously, his performance in Saudi Arabia in a boxing match against Tyson Fury, made huge waves in the combat sports world. And now you add this Bellator thing into the equation. They've got some well-known and some nasty heavyweights on the Bellator roster. How does Francis Ngannou fit into this new equation that is PFL, Bellator, and everything else going on?
Well, hey, you should talk to Francis. I mean, I did talk to him this morning. He's excited, for the sport. This is truly transformational, this acquisition. And, he's excited, overall from advancing the sport, growing the sport, bringing the two entities together. And, where he sits, I mean, he's focused on, his next MMA appearance and fight. And we're in the process of putting that together. And I'm looking forward to sharing details, hopefully very, very soon, about a fight that will take place next year, which will be a massive event. And Francis is also focused on, obviously, his next boxing, bout. And in addition to that, boy, he hits me up a lot, and regarding PFL Africa. He puts on his business hat and his chairman's hat. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be making some announcements on our game plan and our foundation that we've been building to ensure a successful launch of PFL Africa in 2025. So we'll be sharing those details, certainly into the new year.
It's not like this Bellator news comes at a lull in your schedule, Pete, because we've got a PFL Global Season Championship Black Friday in Washington, D.C., 6 $1 million championship fights, some great showcase fights. Kayla Harrison is back inside the smart cage. Ray Cooper III is back inside the smart cage. Derek Brunson is making his PFL debut. I mean, all this is happening days from now, and you're making another ground-shaking announcement in the future of this company. Doing this against the backdrop of championship week, was that always the plan?
Well, yeah, we wanted to get it done leading into championship week. Championship week for us is very much a celebration of the year, recognizing these great athletes who earn their way. Our brand is amplified, and sort of going into a holiday week, and one of our pinnacle events. No better time to make the announcement. And my partner, Don Davis, founder and chairman of the PFL, his vision, tenacity, really ensured, and the support from the PFL board, that we got this done. And now it's up to us to bring it all together and make it, integrate it within the overall PFL system, PFL culture. And we have an incredible team, across the board, on the fighter ops side, on the business operations side, globally, internationally, and regionally around the world. And now also, additional capability coming into the mix, not just fighters from Bellator. They have a great team. And so, we'll integrate, the team under the Professional Fighters League operations. And I'm excited about that. It's part of being a builder, making moves. We're not here to tread water. And we go to work every day proudly to, truly, advance and grow the sport and build an incredible global MMA powerhouse.
A little bird informed me that Jake Paul is going to be part of our championship broadcast. He's going to stop by, help us call a couple of fights. I'm very much looking forward to that. And obviously, he's been part of the long-term plan for the PFL's expansion. We saw the photo shoot with him, inside. He's got the PFL kit on. He's got his own PFL smart cage set up where he's training. Any updates on Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, maybe?
Hey, there's a number of conversations going on, and we'd like to see that matchup, on the heels of, those two guys getting in the ring, and fireworks. We're sparking, and we love that. We both fighters want to fight, but I will tell you, there are a lot of options for Jake Paul, in terms of his opponent. And so Jake is is continuing to focus on boxing while he trains in the PFL Smart Cage, in Puerto Rico on his compound. And we love his passion, we love his commitment, to the PFL mission, and his determination to take on this sport like he took on boxing. And he's a much better athlete now. He's a much better fighter now, versus when he just came into the boxing space. So there's definitely a number of options for Jake for his debut, and Nate would be great. It's definitely a fight that I think the fighters want, fans want it. I'd certainly like to put it together. Nothing but respect for Nate Diaz, and we'll see how that goes.
So you've got all things that you look over personally, by the way. I can attest to that for anyone who's watching this interview. The regional leagues cropping up all over the globe, right? We've got our Challenger Series here domestically in the United States. PFL Europe has been a smash hit with the championship coming up in Dublin on December 8th, and a bunch of great fights going on there. Middle East, North Africa, another step. As you already mentioned, PFL Africa, Francis Ngannou is the chairman of that. You've got the PFL Bellator vertical that has now been created with Bellator coming over under the PFL umbrella. And of course, the crown jewel of the global season, the true sports format, the only true sports format in the sport of mixed martial arts. Pete, what kind of delegation are you going to have to be practicing here? Because that's a lot for you and Don to be overseeing.
Oh, no, listen, we have a vision, we have a strategy, we have a plan, we're operators, and we have a great team. It happens with a great team and skilled experts across, from a production standpoint, marketing and storytelling, event operations, fighter operations, and then, commercially on the business side. So we continue to expand our capabilities, to the current leadership team and overall company. But we're focused on building for scale and long term. And so more resources come with this acquisition, and we have a team of leaders in all of the verticals who know what they're doing, and they're the best of the best from not only combat sports but from broader sports, media, entertainment, and technology. And candidly, they make my job pretty easy. So we could pick, I could pick my head up and we can look out a little further. And so that's what it's all about. And it really is a team-driven culture.
What's your reaction when you see the immediate reactions to, PFL is buying Bellator? I mean, Dana White said, why would you buy Bellator? Why would anyone want to buy Bellator? They can't draw a gate. Same person, and a lot of people said, what are you doing letting Francis Ngannou go and box? He's going to get smashed in the boxing ring, and it's going to diminish your star power. I mean, these moves that you're making, when people question them, and especially with the Francis deal, you sit back and you watch. I mean, how do you react when you see people immediately starting to question the wisdom of a decision like this when there clearly is a plan in place, at least internally for you?
How do you like me now? So no, listen, there's always going to be naysayers. You're always going to get poked. But listen, we're very steadfast, and we lead with strategy, and what's best for fans and ultimately the fighters, and we package that up in an incredible product. And so with respect to like Bellator's historical performance, I mean, over the last just 3 years, I mean, their gate is in key markets, in some cases, over $1 million in revenue. And from a distribution standpoint on the Bellator side of the house, we're going to expand that distribution and up-level that distribution, globally, in 2024 to mirror PFL's distribution. I mean, we're on the ESPN here in the U.S. right alongside the UFC, and with respect to the PFL ratings, we're our growth CAGR year over year is 30%, and from a media standpoint, we're close to 45% of UFC's audience, apples to apples, and we went from 0 to 45 in 4 seasons, and now we're focused on pedal down, and not only being equal to but greater. And we have the brand, we have the capabilities, we have the passion. We're builders, we're innovators and disruptors. And, but when you pull back it really is all about, our business thesis, where there's more room for more than one leader. This is a massive fan base, 650 million fans, 80% outside the US, right? Youngest fan base of all traditional sports. And these crazy kids, and we love these fans, half of them, you're a stick and ball guy, right? And, back in the day, half of this fan base not highly engaged or engaged at all in stick and ball sports. And so, UFC cannot fulfill all the demand for premium MMA, and that's the role we're playing, but we're doing it with, candidly, we think our vision is solving, for something, to advance and grow the sport, create a system, put more infrastructure in place. And as we do that, we're building a massive business.
I know a guy who's interested in calling some of these fights that you're bringing all these great fighters over. I know a guy who's going to volunteer, put his hand up to call these fights, Pete.
Well, there's plenty of work. That's all I'm saying, Sean. So let's get after it.
Congratulations on completing this deal. I know it's been a long time coming. The whole MMA world has been waiting for it. The announcement came out. It's official. PFL has purchased Bellator, will be running, cross-pollinating, reimagining Bellator while continuing to build a PFL brand into a co-leader in the sport of mixed martial arts. You're changing the game, Pete, and I love it.
That's it. That's what it's all about, So, more to come. But remember, this Friday, Black Friday, PFL World Championship. Give the gift of fighting this holiday with the PFL Championship.
Exclusively on ESPN pay-per-view. I will see you there, Pete.
That's right. And our partners at DAZN actually are also going to be distributing it here in the US. So it's a big party. We appreciate our partners, both ESPN and DAZN.
Love it. Thanks, Pete.
Later, Sean. Appreciate it. See you in DC.